Part 4, correct connections. Please keep in mind another simple fact. It is often overlooked. The fact is this. James refers to justification by works only in James 2, 20 to 26. Please notice the range of verses. I did not say James 2, 14 to 26, but James 2, 20 to 26. Here and only here in his epistle does James refer to this idea. I admit to you today that it is a serious interpretive mistake to think that justification by works is in any sense part of the main theme of this epistle. It is no more a part of the main theme than the idea of visiting orphans and widows in their trouble is, which is mentioned only in James 1:27. But please notice, I am not saying that either of these ideas is totally unrelated to James' main theme. Both are obviously connected to that theme. But the epistle of James is not really about visiting orphans and widows, as important as that idea may be. Neither is the epistle of James about justification by works. May I repeat that? Neither is the epistle of James about justification by works. I know that this last statement may be hard for us to take in. We have so often thought about the epistle of James in connection with its treatment of works that we have unconsciously accepted the proposition that justification by works is central to the epistle. Justification by works is certainly an important idea, but James' epistle is not basically about that. James' real theme is about enduring and profiting from our trials. We are all too often the victims of the hot-button theological issues. When we think of James, we think of the faith-works issue. And when we think of that issue, we think of justification by works as if it were James' most crucial idea. But when we think that way, we are not thinking exegetically. What is the role of justification by works in James? Simply put, its role is to answer the imaginary objector who speaks in verses 18 to 19. That is its correct connection to James's text. Part 5, shutting the objector up. This is not the place to go into a detailed explanation of James 2:18 to 19, which contain the words of the objector. I have tried to do that in my commentary, and I understand that our brother Frank Tyler will tackle these verses in a session this afternoon. I'm deliberately deferring to Frank because I don't like to do it. So we'll all go and hear what those verses are about this afternoon. Let me simply remind you that the objector does not believe that there is any intrinsic connection between faith and works. Human beings and the demons can both believe in the oneness of God, but their response to that truth can be widely different. A human being may be motivated to do good because of this belief, but the demons only tremble. They certainly don't do good. How in the world, then, can James claim that faith is somehow dead apart from works? James' response begins, of course, in verse 20. But do you want to know, O foolish man, that faith without works is dead? Verses 20 to 26 are therefore James' answer to the objector. Let me explain this answer as follows. I'm paraphrasing. James is saying something like this. There are certain times in the experience of men and women of faith when a failure to act would demonstrate the deadness of their faith. But on those occasions, The appropriate actions manifest the vitality of the faith that is in their hearts. Let me elaborate on this just a bit. If God had asked Abraham to offer his son as a sacrifice, and Abraham had said, "There's no way I can do that to my son," would we not say that Abraham's faith had no vitality and life? If it was challenged by God's command, and he could not have responded, it was at that moment a dead letter. It was moribund. It was lifeless. On the contrary, Abraham's actual response testified to the vitality, to the aliveness of his faith in God. The same was true of Rahab. Her city and its inhabitants were threatened with extinction by the forces of the God of Israel. She and her family would also perish. Even if she believed in the God of Israel, if she had refused hospitality to the spies, she would have signed her own death warrant. In that case, her faith would have been dead, and she herself would soon have been dead along with all of her family. But her faith was alive and active, and she pleaded for the life of her family and herself. Joshua 2:12-13. And she got her request on the condition that she did not betray the spies to their pursuers. Joshua 2:14. Thus, as James says, she sent them out another way. She kept her end of the bargain. Her faith had been active and alive, and thus she and her family remained alive. Thus Rahab, like Abraham, was vindicated, that is, justified by her actions. Both she and Abraham manifested the aliveness of their faith. And if the objector couldn't see that, he really was a numbskull. That's stronger language than James uses.